Did the United States just deploy a weapon in Venezuela unlike anything we've ever seen before? One that left soldiers bleeding from their noses, vomiting blood, collapsing on the ground, unable to move? Hey there friends, welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm of course Paul Glasgow here, the one and only truth pimp, dealing a vulgar display of logic and reason on a daily basis. I mean, all the buzz online for the last 4 days, has been about this Venezuelan security guard, supposedly, that was in that inner circle protecting Maduro. Nice job. Where he's talking about energy-type weapons, some kind of sonic weapons, things of that nature. A lot of speculation, a lot of information going on out there, but guess what? Nobody at the top was really talking about that, and we didn't expect them to. Until, oddly enough, the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, shared a tweet or retweeted that. And that, to me, validated, without validating, that we have these types of weapons out there. Real quick, guys, if you don't mind, check out my friends, Gideon Optics. When you're behind your rifle, crappy glass can cost you more than just a missed shot. That's why I run Gideon Optics. Crystal clear clarity, rock solid durability, and trust me, these are some rugged optics. Every Gideon optic is built for shooters who don't settle. They're built to perform, built to last, and they are rugged. And right now you can get yours for less. Just head over to GideonOptics.com and use my code FTATF at checkout for immediate savings. Take your shot with the optics built for freedom-loving Americans. Gideon Optics. Precision you can depend on. According to this eyewitness account and shared by the United States White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, a Venezuelan security guard claimed something strange happened during the January 3rd raid. He said, and I quote, "It was like a very intense sound wave. My head felt like it was exploding from the inside. We started bleeding from the nose. Some of us were vomiting blood." Well, that doesn't sound like conventional weaponry to me. The witness described this supposed weapon, quote, like intense sound waves. And that's where everyone online kind of went off on the sonic weapon thing. And a logical connection, right? But here's the twist. A true sonic weapon, like a loudspeaker type system, can give you ear pain or disorientation, but it does not cause internal bleeding or vomiting. So if it wasn't sound, what type of energy or what type of weapon could get these types of results from all of these people? It wasn't just one guy. There's only really one class of technology that comes close to explaining this type of weapon phenomenon. Direct energy weapons, which are microwaves, millimeter waves, or electromagnetic beams that interact directly with the human body in ways that traditional weapons never could be the explanation for this. So before I go any further, let me explain what electromagnetic warfare actually is. Electromagnetic warfare refers to combat using the electromagnetic spectrum, radio waves, microwaves, frequencies that we can't hear, see, or easily detect, to deny, disrupt, or destroy enemy systems and capabilities. It's pretty much the backbone of all modern energy weapons. Well, now the United States Air Force is funding something called Cognitive Electromagnetic Warfare. It's a program to teach machines to fight in the electromagnetic spectrum using AI and machine learning. See, cognitive electromagnetic warfare isn't just about cracking enemies' radar systems. It's about using smart adaptive energy effects, real-time decisions, lightning speed targeting, and possibly human effects. So I'm going to show you a bunch of these slides that I went and found. There's a lot of direct energy and electromagnetic warfare, cognitive type stuff buried in the more recent budget of the United States Department of Defense. So it's all throughout there. This is not some phenomenon that somebody is dreaming up. We are working on those things. The American taxpayers are already paying for this type of stuff. In the official U.S. defense budget, under the Air Force's research accounts, there's a program element called Cognitive Electromagnetic Warfare, requested for about $44.3 million for fiscal year 2026. That budget line exists. It's a real budget item. It's an approved budget item. It shows Congress is funding research into AI-enabled electromagnetic offensive and defensive capabilities. So again, it is a thing. It's not some conspiracy theory that somebody made up somewhere on some dark web. It's a legitimate line item in the United States budget. Here's where it gets a little weird. What if elements of this research were mature enough to be deployed covertly now? What if this is exactly what that Venezuelan guard experienced, but without full public disclosure? And what if the Pentagon will never admit it publicly? I mean, with a name like Cognitive Electromagnetic Warfare, do you expect the Department of Defense to come out and explain this to us? I mean, in their defense, no pun intended, we don't want our enemies getting their hands on this. Now, we know, and I'm not going to say who, we know who would take this technology and sell it or give it to our enemies. Again, I'm not going to name who that is, but you know who I'm talking about. Cognitive electromagnetic warfare as a budget line item doesn't sound near as scary as a news report talking about cognitive electromagnetic warfare. At my elementary level of knowledge of these types of systems, I've been researching this for 3 days now. I'm going to try to explain what could have been used in Venezuela based on information that's available. Again, I certainly don't have access to what the Department of Defense is working on, but in doing some pretty deep dives, I can show you what is likely out there now that it could be. First is high power microwaves. These can create internal heating, nervous system disruption, disorientation, but not typically bleeding. But non-lethal effects are possible at certain settings. Scientists have studied these things for decades. Next up is a millimeter wave system. They're used for crowd control. You've probably heard about these where they create a heat sensation on the skin, but it doesn't burn the skin. In extreme situations, it could theoretically affect balance and bodily control. Finally, AI-directed EMS weapons. This is where cognitive electromagnetic warfare research comes in. Instead of static jamming, these systems could sense the entire environment. They evaluate every signal in real time. They fire back with optimal electronic attacks, dynamically shaped their output accordingly. This is describing weapons that aren't sonic, but are electromagnetic, AI-controlled, and adaptive energy devices. Now, in theory, I believe these weapons, either combined or individually, could probably disrupt somebody's system. It could overwhelm human neurological systems in ways that looks maybe like bleeding and collapse, especially amid all the chaos and battle like what we saw in Venezuela. I want to talk about a quick side note. This would not be the first time we had one of these weird types of weapons. A side note, Andrew Breitbart supposedly got hit with something that disrupted his heart. I know you guys have probably heard about that stuff too. So there's other stuff that I'm not even covering here that's supposed to exist out there. But Havana syndrome, I know a lot of you guys have heard of Havana syndrome. To me, that's the precedent that makes a lot of this stuff believable. Since 2016, U.S. diplomats, intelligence officers, and military personnel around the world have reported a cluster of unexplained symptoms now known as Havana syndrome. The reason it's called Havana syndrome is that U.S. diplomats and intelligence personnel stationed in Havana, Cuba, began reporting sudden unexplained symptoms. These reports clustered geographically and temporarily around U.S. and Canadian embassy staff in that area. Now, that's not the only place it ever was, just called Havana syndrome, because that's where it first got discovered. I believe it's been similar symptoms have been China, Russia, throughout Europe, even Washington, D.C. People have experienced Havana syndrome. Those reported effects of Havana syndrome were sudden head pressure, severe headaches, dizziness, nausea, disorientation, balance problems, cognitive impairment, ringing or strained sensations in the head. In multiple cases, no visible injury was found. For years, officials blamed, get this, stress, environmental factors, psychosomatic illness. Yeah. Let's ignore the geographical areas that all this took place in and say that it's stress. Look, you're a government worker. Other than the stress you put on yourself or the internal guilt that you have, I don't think it's a very stressful job. Later, U.S. intelligence assessments acknowledged that some cases could not be explained away, and a subset were deemed possibly consistent with directed energy exposure, particularly microwave or electromagnetic mechanisms. Now, there's been no public confirmation, no definitive weapon named, no accountability. Just this conclusion. Something happened, and it didn't fit conventional explanations. So I think that brings the question, if unexplained energy-type weapons have been used in the past, even if it's just a theory, it's probably pretty logical to believe that the United States more than likely has perfected such a weapon. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The Pentagon has literally zero incentive to admit to the American people that there are these types of weapons. Again, between espionage, leaking, spies, why would they? So, what really happened in Venezuela? Was it conventional firepower and this guy's just a little discombobulated? Was it a sonic myth? Something far more advanced? What we do know is that witness claims effects that defy conventional ordinary weapons. We also know that the U.S. military is currently funding programs called Cognitive Electromagnetic Warfare. We know that direct energy capabilities are real areas of research. We also know that no government officials have confirmed or denied these types of weapons exist. In other words, they've never said, no, we don't have those. And would you believe them if they did? If you think you're seeing the future of warfare unfold in real time, like this video. Subscribe for more deep dives like this one. Comment what you think is going on. What's your theory? One final thought here. The information that all this came from, the Venezuelan security guard also made mention of Mexico. And you also saw Donald Trump and some other people talking about the possibilities of going after drug cartels in Mexico. I think we have to ask ourselves, is Mexico next? Are we going to start seeing some of these types of futuristic style weapons, if you will, used closer here to home? Is Mexico next? Don't forget, guys, if you're looking for a book to educate yourself and to educate the idiots out there who can't think for themselves regarding mass shootings, go to damnliars.net. Again, damnliars.net, and get my brand new book, Damn Liars.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
It's hanging around.